Hey, good morning to those of you out there on the West Coast. Good afternoon to those of you here on the East Coast with me. Happy Thanksgiving if you're here live. I do know that we've got a lot of people who, when I say a lot for Thanksgiving, right? Because we're live today on Thanksgiving. I'm taking a break. I just buttered the turkey and I'm like, all right, I got 30 minutes. Let me come up here and do the live. But we've got some of us joining from LinkedIn, some joining from YouTube. I want to welcome you. If you're on YouTube, definitely come over to LinkedIn at some point, connect with me, send me a message when you connect and say that you've been watching lives and you're connecting. But we're going to get started in today's training, and I'm going to dive into today's training. But one of the things I wanted to point out is I like starting with a quick tip of the day. And there's this phrase I use in sales, and I've been using it since I was knocking on doors back in California when I was 18, 19 years old, selling vacuum cleaners door to door. And there was this phrase we used in sales back then, and I've used it my entire sales career, that some will, some won't, so what? And the idea is that some people will do what you want, right? They'll buy what you want, or they'll let you demo your product or meet with you. Some people will do what you want, some people won't, so what? And the idea is don't get caught up about the ones who don't do what you want. So what? That's fine. Let's focus on doing more of the activities so we reach more of the people who will do what we want. So just keep that in your mind as you're moving forward and you're doing sales in the federal market and you're building relationships with teammates or federal agency buyer folks. Some of them are going to want to talk with you. Some of them aren't. No problem. Just move on. So some will, some won't. So what? It's a great way to just keep going forward. All right. So I've got a fun topic today. I'm excited about it. Let me share my slides and I'll dive into it. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about how to grow your company from 1 million to 4 million, right? And so there's a lot of good tips in here. If you're, below 1 million, exactly the tips I'm sharing is just process, right? So you're at a different stage. I also put this out there as a way specifically for 8A firms, but a lot of what I teach, 99% of what I teach is very general for all small business government contractors, right? It's process. It's not like some secret for the 8A firms or for the woman-owned small business firms. It's just process. And that's what I'm going to teach you today. So again, today's training is about how to grow from $1 million to $4 million in government contracting, right? How do you go from that stage? And you can think about this from different levels, right? How do you go from 5 million to 10 million? It's the same thing. How do you go from where you're at to where you want to go? There's this delta. And today I'm going to talk about the delta. One of the things I really want you to keep in mind as we move forward is that success should not just happen to us. We shouldn't sit back and wait for it to happen. We should go out and make it happen. Whatever you want, you can have anything you want. There's this great line that says you can have anything you want as long as you help enough other people get what they want. But either way, it's about being proactive, right? Going out there and making your success happen to you. We don't want to let it happen to us, because when we let it happen to us, we're running our business or we're doing our job in a reactive way instead of a proactive way, right? And so I put down this line of saying reaching that $4 million goal, right? If you want to go from 1 million to 4 million, reaching that goal is like Thanksgiving dinner. And I think this is pretty appropriate to what I'm talking about today, or what I'm doing today, right? I'm helping prepare dinner. You got Thanksgiving meal, and it's not just about cooking it. It's like, what time do you want to sit down and eat? And Stephen Covey describes it in the 7 Habits for Highly Effective People. I don't know if you'd see that book title, but 7 Habits for Highly Effective People. He has something in there about begin with the end in mind. And for us, the end in mind is not a cooked turkey. It's sitting down to eat. For you, it's about revenue in the bank. And when you look at the end, you begin to back up. And for us, we have to do the same thing. We have to back it up and go, well, how long does the turkey have to sit and cool? How long does it take to carve before we eat? All right, well, how long does it take to cook it? And how much prep time before you put it into the oven? So you've got all this activity, and running our businesses is no different. We look at where we want to go, and we just reverse engineer what it takes to get to our goal. And in today's training, it's about what does it take to get to that $4 million goal? So today I'm going to be talking about how it's really important for your success that you're focused, your company is focused, and you know what you sell. And this isn't just a recommendation for small businesses. Oh, you're a small business, you need to focus, you need to niche down. It's like, no, billion-dollar companies like the Fortune 5 or 10 firms, the largest companies in the entire world, do the same thing. Their success comes from them niching down to understanding truly what they sell. And I want to talk about that. Then I'm going to go into really understanding in the government contracting space for your business walking away from today's training, what are some ways you can break down the numbers? So if you look at the 4 million, how do you back that up? And then I'll wrap up with just a reminder on if the success begins with being focused, it also requires you to be focused on who are you going to sell to? Where's that $4 million going to come from? And that's what I'll talk about last in today's training. If you don't know who I am, my name is Neil McDonald. I want to welcome you to my federal sales training where I provide tips for success in the federal market. I spent 20 years in the federal market as a small business owner. And since 2018, I've been teaching people like you that government contracting is not a secret, it's a process. When we follow a process, we're going to see repeatable, predictable results. And that's what I want for you. That's why I put on this slide my 7-step process for federal government success. And when I say mine, I just mean I put the graphic together and said, this is the way it goes. But it basically is the industry best practices. I just made it easy to understand with 7 steps. If you're live and near the chat, love to sit there and see you put into the chat 2 things. One is just let me know that you're actually seeing the AV, so we're good there. And then the second thing is let us know your company name. Who's on? Say hello. It's always good to see. Okay, let me dive into today's training, the meat of it, and begin with this whole idea of success comes from being focused, having a niche, right? It's really important to be niched down. There's this line that says the riches are in the niches. And what that means is you can hit your revenue goals and your sales goals when you niche down or focus down. I wanted to tell you this story about Ford. American automaker, it's a classic company for the last 100 plus years, right? And it's been around, it's been instrumental in this country forever, and one of the anchor companies in this country and in the world. In 2006, Ford was doing horrible as an auto manufacturer. People would look in and like, oh, they're doing horrible. They're probably going to be broken up and sold. And the company was trying to figure out how do we change. And they went out and hired this guy, Alan Mullaney, in 2006. And what they told him when they were hiring him is, we need help, right? We are dying here. We're losing billions of dollars a quarter. At one point, they lost $5 billion in one quarter. Think about how your situation is, and then think about theirs. $5 billion loss. I don't feel comfortable saying we had a $5 loss, let alone a $500 or $5 million loss, right? And here's $5 billion loss. So it was really bad shape. And they brought this guy, Alan Mullaney, in from Boeing. He was a leader in Boeing, and they brought him over to Ford, and they made him a CEO, which was a big deal because at the time, the owner of the company, the Ford family, this guy, Bill Ford, was running it, and he just subordinated himself to Alan Mullaney and said, look, I need somebody who can run this business well. And so he came in, and one of the very first things he did was niched down. There was Ford makes the Ford Mustangs, right? And Ford cars and Ford trucks, et cetera. And at the time in 2006, when he came in, this company had gone around on this buying spree and bought Jaguars and Land Rovers and Volvo and Aston Martin, all these different other car manufacturers. They just acquired them all as if they were saying, hey, what do you sell? Well, we sell all this. And in those people's minds before Mullaney, they were thinking to themselves, well, we're niched out. We sell cars. It's like, no, that's like saying you sell construction. That's not good enough. You need to go down to painting or down to elevator services. Or if you say we do IT services, no, you need to be cyber. In fact, cyber, you need to come down even further to risk management framework, or we do Amazon cloud services, things like that. And so in Ford, he did this. He sold off Land Rover, Volvo, Jaguar, all these companies, and said, we are going to sell Ford cars and Ford trucks. And the coolest thing about this is 3 years later, 3 years after he came along, there was huge housing market crash. If any of you remember that back in 2008, et cetera. And all these companies were needing bailouts from the government. Only did Ford or Alan Mullaney come in, and through niching down, what I'm trying to push on you today, he came in and was able to reverse that trend of losing money so that they were making a lot of money, had it all set aside. He was the only car manufacturer in that whole downturn and recession, whatever we called it, right back in 2008. He was the only company that didn't take money from the government. Everybody else did. He was able to make this massive change, not from anything overly radical, but beginning with, we sell these things, these cars, these trucks. We go back to Ford's roots. And that's what I want you to do. You need to know, what do you sell? What's your niche? I have the same challenge, right? I could be selling all these things saying, hey, we've got all these services. No, what we sell is getting in the door, building relationships that lead to opportunities so that you can win. We don't sell pricing. We don't sell back office support or these other things. We are very focused. What is your focus, right? Can you make that focused, niche down offer clear to yourself and then to your customers and to your teammates out there? So niche down. Remember, the riches are in the niches. Your company will begin to go the direction you want. You'll begin to go towards that $4 million goal or $40 million goal when you have a clear niche. And then only pursue that niche. So going into agencies and looking for opportunities, only look for opportunities that are related to the Ford car, right? To your Ford car. What is that? Only pursue opportunities that are like that. Only pursue relationships with people who are in that space. Don't get pulled to other places where you invest a lot of energy into relationships that really aren't your space. You want to focus and find the people who can help you drive towards where you're going. You'll also be able to build strong relationships because those very same people you'll be able to help one way or another. So keep that in mind as you move forward, that the success comes from being focused. The next thing I wanted to do is I wanted to walk you through the numbers as I see them, right? It's only a 30-minute training. This will be over at 12:30. That's when I got to butter the turkey again. And in here, though, I want to give you just a high level of looking at numbers. It's how I look at numbers for my own companies when I ran them. It's how I sit there and advise the customers that I have today. So as we move forward and you think about when I teach, I like to teach things that when you hear it, you go, oh, that makes sense. I don't want you to feel like what I'm teaching you is some big revelation or secret or something. Nothing in government contracting should be a secret or a revelation. It should just be, oh, I understand. I got it now. I see it. Let me execute. That's what I try to teach you, is things that when you see it, you're like, that makes sense. So the first thing that should be obvious, right? If you want to go from 1 million to 4 million, then what you are stating is that you're looking for a $3 million net new revenue, meaning you're expecting the 1 million that you're currently earning to continue on. You're going to have recompetes or optioneers or whatever that are pretty much guaranteed to be coming in. So you just want to add 3 million more in there. It's important to begin with that revenue goal. It's like we need 3 million net new. It means we're adding 3 million to the top line there. So then the next thing you think about, right? And I'm using some assumptions here on examples, but $3 million revenue divided by 200,000, which represents one person's revenue, equals 15 full-time equivalents or full-time billable people on a government project, right? And that's making the assumption they're billing at $100 an hour. So let me pause for a second here just to walk you through the numbers in case this is newer to you, right? But generally you take your hourly average rate and double it. That becomes the annual revenue. So if somebody is billing out at $50 an hour, you can expect to get $100,000 in revenue every year from your government buyer. Same thing at $100 an hour, you can expect to get $200,000 a year in revenue. So that 200,000 represents one person, also known as a full-time equivalent, right? 40 hours a week, 1,880 hours a year. So an FTE is somebody billing out full-time throughout the year. So one FTE can bring in 200,000. So 15 FTEs times 200,000 equals the 3 million. This is really important because now you're turning your revenue goal into people. How many people do I need on my team how many people do I need to add to my team to grow 3 million in revenue, right? It can't be some magical $3 million revenue. We've got to keep breaking it down the same way that I was breaking down a turkey dinner and all the things I have to do. So hopefully this makes sense. $3 million at $100 an hour average rate is 15 FTEs. First task for you is you need to determine what this hourly rate is for you. What is your company's average hourly rate? Okay, so we took those 15 FTEs and let's move on to the next bullet. 15 FTEs divided by 3 FTEs equals 5 strategic relationships. What I mean by this is in this particular case, I'm only talking subcontracting. If you went out and subcontract and you want 15 FTEs, what I'm suggesting is that you need 5 strategic relationships in order to get 15 FTEs, because my assumption, and this is a good assumption, is that when you have a strategic relationship, it will lead to you being able to find 3 positions on their contracts that you can support. So I have customers right now, I have customers on both sides of this. I have customers that are looking to grow to that 4 million, and I have customers that are 10 plus million that I know are willing to meet with some of these folks, right? And so if I make an introduction, they're able to start getting on contracts, right? Bringing their expertise, not just out of the goodness of their heart, bringing value in their focused offer, right, on your subject matter expertise. But the idea is if you build a strategic relationship, and I have a lot of training on how do you build them, what are they, what's the criteria, but the biggest criteria of a strategic relationship is that they must be big enough for you to grow in. So whether it's a federal agency buyer or it's a teaming partner, small business or large, they must be big enough that you can grow. So generally you're looking at 5 or 10 million and up for a strategic relationship, right? The other relationships are necessary, but we're just talking about strategic relationship. So you want to go find companies that are doing 5 or 10 million plus. And all you have to do is find 5 of them. And over the course of the next year, through your relationship, you should be able to get 3 FTEs on a contract. Right? I'm literally working with a customer right now where my goal is to help them get 20 to 30 FTEs just from one strategic relationship that we're setting them up with. And for them, we'll actually be setting up a couple of those bigger ones. These are with billion-dollar firms. And so you want to be tracking that same thing. You should expect that you can get 3 FTEs from any strategic relationship. So whatever your FTE goal is, the number of people you want to add to your company to reach your revenue goal, whatever that goal is, just divide it by 3, and that's the number of strategic relationships you need. I have, again, a lot of training that talks about where are these strategic relationships? How do you find them? How do you convince them to work with you? This is what we do for our customers, and the way we do it is what I teach every single day for free out here. So, you don't have to work with me to know any of this. You work with me and we do it for you. But I teach you how to do it. So go watch the training and I lay out exactly how do you identify the winners in an agency that you want to go into, and then how do you begin to reach out and build those relationships. But when you truly care about strategic relationships, you're going to find these 3 FTEs. And if you're not finding them, I would argue that you have too many relationships you're investing in that are networking investments or networking people that really you should see once a month or 2 months. Right? And you should let there be room for strategic relationships and for you to realize I need strategic relationships if I want to grow. Okay, so that was subcontracting. Let's talk about it from a prime contracting position. So, by the way, quick pause. When I teach this, I tell you to go after, if you're going after 3 million, go after 3 million as subcontracting, go after 3 million as prime contracting. And when you make that your effort, you'll hit your goal because your activity is over what's needed. And so it's almost impossible to miss your goal. So let's talk about prime contracting. If you want to reach that $3 million net new revenue, what I'm suggesting is that 5 prime contracts will lead to that $3 million of revenue. So let's talk about how that happens. First off, my assumption is that if you're going after a contract and you're a $1 million company, let's say, and you're going to 4 million, then you should be able to go after contracts that are about $500,000, $600,000 a year and multiply that by the typical 5-year contract. And you've got a $3 million contract. And so you want to go after you want to win 5 prime contracts over the next period of time, right? I'm not actually in today's training saying how fast will you get to 3 million. That's kind of up to you and the activity you do. It should be reasonable to expect that in the next 6, 12 months, for sure, you're going from 1 to 4 million, right? You shouldn't go beyond 12 months. By the end of 12 months, you should be at a $4 million company saying, how do I go to 5 or 10, right? But give yourself a little time in there. But so these prime contracts, right? If you're looking at your focused offer and you put those opportunities into your pipeline, what you want to do is to pursue the right opportunities that are of sufficient size. So not these little small contracts. I never went after small contracts. It is just as hard for you to go after small contracts as it is bigger contracts. Think about writing a response to the government for whatever you do, and the contract is $500,000 total, or it's 5 million. What's the difference, right? For the most part, there's never really any difference. You just expand what you're saying you're doing. Whether you're saying I'm building 1 elevator or 5 elevators at a time, whether you're saying I'm building a software application with one person or 5 people. It's the same thing. You still have, if this is your expertise, you still have your technical approach, your management approach, your staffing approach. Like, this is how we do things. So it's not that hard to write a larger one. In fact, it is just, from a lot of us, we say it's exactly the same effort to write bigger contracts. So you want to write contracts that are sitting in that $3 million phase over 5 years. If you're just trying to go from 1 to 4 million, right? So $3 million contract, total contract value. What that means is the total value over 5 years is expected to be $3 million. That represents roughly $600,000 a year, or 3 FTEs, 3 people billing out. When you do that, right, that means you'll need 5 contracts out there. And so again, it comes back to this idea of just understanding this stuff here. It's pretty easy math to do once you've got, like, think about the numbers I have here. I already determined the number of FTEs, that's up here. I already determined the revenue, that was up here. The only thing I had to determine really was the prime contracts, because I'm going on the assumption that a prime contract or a strategic relationship will enable me to get at least 3 more people billable through that relationship or through that contract, right? That's a fair assumption from the type of work we do. Okay, so let's talk about the last one here is 20 proposals. So if the contracts you're going to win, you need to sit there and back up and write a sufficient amount of proposals. This goes back to being pursuing that $3 million just as a prime contractor. You want to write 20 proposals, at least 20 proposals. In this assumption, or in this example, we're talking about 20 proposals that are generally $3 million a piece, right? Because that's what you're trying to win there. So 20 proposals, I divided it by 25% win rate, and that equals the 5 contracts. Basically, what it means is when you submit a proposal to the government, every 4 proposals, you'll win once. This is totally doable when you sit there and write proposals to your core competency, your expertise, the niched offer that you have. Because when you're writing those proposals, you're demonstrating that we're the best at this, right? We are a really good choice for you. And then it's 1 out of 4 times, 25% that you'll win it. So you want to write 20 proposals. And if 20 proposals sounds like a lot, don't worry about it. There's AI tools out there that are awesome now, like GovDash is out there. You can use tools like that to accelerate your process, right? You don't use it to just write a proposal and throw it to the government, but you use it for efficiency to really write proposals faster that enables you to spend your time more thinking about the winning part of the proposal and less time about just putting it all together. Let the AI tools do that. Okay, so you want to write 20 proposals. And so these are the numbers, right? From a high level, I've done many other trainings where I go into spreadsheets and I break it down for you in graphs. Different ways of looking at your numbers when you're looking out for 2024, or you're saying, I want to grow by 3 million net new so I can get to a $4 million stage. When you're looking at that, these trainings will help you identify your numbers. And literally, if you watch the training and then did what I teach in that same day, this is a 1-day exercise. In 1 day, you can begin to understand the numbers. The previous training I've done that is along this lines will back it up from the proposal saying, well, how many opportunities do I need in my pipeline, right? How many opportunities do I need to even look at? How many people do I need to call each week? So all those numbers you back up, they don't take a lot of time. You spend 1 day, 1 or 2 days around it, and you can really make it happen. Don't go Black Friday shopping tomorrow to spend money. Stay home and do your numbers. All right, let's wrap up with where's this $4 million coming from? It's really important to me when I teach people about how to succeed in government contracting, that it's not enough to just say, what do we sell, right? And to niche down and focus on that. It's not enough to know your numbers, how much do we want? But you also now need to know that other component, which is who's going to buy what I'm selling? Where am I going to get it? And I don't mean it from a data exercise. Sometimes I feel like people get caught up in the data too much, that they're not actually thinking about selling. They're just trying to, they're taking answers out of one database, putting it into their own database, and then talking about that data for months and months or something. It's like, no. Who are we going to go build relationships with within the federal government? And so the first thing I say here is, if you're in the federal market, be in the federal market. Don't be in multiple markets. I hear PTAX and SBA and other people talk about, diversify across commercial and state and local law. No, that is the worst advice ever given. if you're going to be going after a particular customer, focus on them, become very good at it. You wouldn't tell somebody to be in the legal market and the financial market and the oil market, right? You focus, you niche down. And so 8A companies, this great example. If you're an 8A company, the government says, well, you must have commercial revenue to balance this kind of stuff in there. It's like, well, you don't have to leave the federal market to get commercial revenue, just subcontract. The minute you subcontract under another organization, small business or Booz Allen, you're now doing commercial work. You're not doing federal work. It just happens to be their customer is a federal customer, but your customer is a commercial customer. And people sometimes miss that. But when you stay in the federal market, you start getting really good at it. The relationships you build, they begin to know each other. People learn about you and your expertise and they refer you. But if you're spending your time in many different markets, no one really gets to know you well, and you certainly don't get to know them well. Large businesses, by the way, do this same exercise. I was working with Booz Allen as one of our biggest customers when they went through this very same thing. They sold off a whole commercial line of business saying, look, we want to focus down on the federal side, right? We want to niche down on these offerings. We don't sell everything. We sell these things. If they're doing it, and we want to do some of the stuff and have some of the success they have, then we should be learning that lesson because that's a good lesson from them. Be all in on the federal market. The next thing you want to do when you're thinking about who are you selling it to or where's that money coming from, when I build 5-year strategic wheels for my customers, it's a wheel that allows you to see on a single page what our 5-year plan is. I don't need more than one page to know what our 5-year plan is. And so part of that plan says, where are we getting the revenue goal that's in the center of the wheel? And so I have a wedge like this and I divide it up. So if you're going from 1 million to 4 million, this is 100% for you. You know, if you're 20 million plus, you can begin to change it a little bit. But fundamentally, I'm assuming that if you're thinking about going from 1 to 4 million, you don't have a lot of salespeople work for the company. Sometimes it's just the owners, right? Or one person. So the first thing you want to do is pick one department, not two. Let me say it one more time. Not two. One department. The federal departments are huge. Pick one and go in. If you can't pick one and go in, then you don't want to do sales. What you want to do is hang outside and see if anything drops your way, right? If you're looking at many different agencies like Department of Education or EPA, those are tiny organizations with tiny spends. Even if you got a contract in there, there's no growth potential. But if you pick a department that gives you growth potential, not only can you hit this $3 million goal we're trying to get to, but you can hit a $30 million or $300 million goals as you move forward. So I gave examples like the Department of Army, not defense, but the Department of Army or Homeland Security is another huge good one. Department of Navy, HHS is another perfect one because they're so big. When you pick that department, what you're committing to is learning about that department or starting in one part of that department and getting good and then expanding around that department because what you do in one has some level of play to the rest of the agencies in there. So the second one is pick 3 agencies within that department. So I'm going to say, hey, I want to go after Department of Navy as an example. So my next thing is to say, well, I want to pick 3 agencies or commands. So in the Navy, it's not subordinate agencies, it's subordinate commands or buying commands. I'll look in there and say, you know what, I do IT. So NAVC is a good one, NAVWAR, Naval Information Warfare Center. And I might pick another one like, I'm saying NAVFAC, but I know NAVFAC doesn't buy IT. But NAVAIR, right? They have a component of IT stuff I could get into. So NAVAIR, NAVC, and NAVWAR. Those are my 3 commands, not 4, because those are big enough. Each one of them spends billions of dollars in what I do, and I have a potential to grow. You want to figure that same thing out. I had a customer, Department of Homeland Security, where we had an enterprise architecture contract with them, and I interacted with the agencies. And because our core competency, our niche in this space was enterprise architecture, we could move from one chief architect in one agency to another, and they talk to each other. It's, oh, have you talked to Neil's company? Those guys are good at this stuff. They'll help you move forward. And so we got a reputation among people who did the same job, just at different agencies. And you want to do that same thing. And then the last thing is coming down department, agency, and then program offices. Which are the program offices? I work with one of our customers is cybersecurity in the Air Force, and we helped them expand the 16th Air Force, which is their cyber command. There's 100 smaller program offices within there. And so we look in there and go, well, which ones are the right ones to go knocking on the door? This is what you want to do is figure out where's that 4 million coming from. So here's what I want you to remember. The riches are in the niches, right? So really focus down and you will hit that revenue goal you're trying to reach. The second thing is make sure you know your revenue goals written down up on a wall. Always know what they are. The third thing is to know your buyers, right? Know who you're going to get that $4 million from. And then you just pursue them relentlessly until you get it. Hopefully you're having a great Thanksgiving. I appreciate you being here for the training. If you came live, for all of us, remember, government contracting, it's not a secret. It's just a process. So is making turkey dinner, and I'm going to go make turkey dinner. I hope you have a good Thanksgiving. I'll talk to you next time.